Thank you for coming today and welcome. My name's Debbie Vallandingham, and I'm the Director of Social Work and Grief Care Services here at Angela Hospice. And with the help of my fellow grief counselors, we would like to welcome you to our annual holiday workshop. It's our hope that today, the workshop, you'll learn a little bit about grief, and you'll get some ideas and some strategies to help make the holidays just a bit easier to navigate this year. So please take notes. We want your questions. So we'll have time for question and answer once we're done with all the presentations and the workshops today. So next, I would like to introduce Nikki, and she is going to take us into our first section of our workshop today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nikki. I'm one of the grief counselors here at Angela. I've been with Angela Hospice for 10 years now, and in the bereavement department, in the grief department here for about a year and a half. And it's truly my pleasure and honor to be here with you guys, to walk alongside you in your grief journey. We definitely understand that the holidays are enormously hard when we're grieving. And we like to promote self-care all year round, but especially hone in on how important self-care is during the holidays. So I have been dubbed the self-proclaimed self-care queen. So I'm here to talk about self-care, especially during this holiday season. So I'm going to talk about 4 domains of self-care for this presentation. Please know that there are more than 4. There's many different aspects of self-care, but just to keep it concise for you all, we're going to talk about 4 of the main ones here. So we have physical, which is how we take care of our body for self-care. Emotional self-care, which is our heart, to love ourselves, to care for ourselves, to be in relationships with ourselves and others. Psychological self-care, which is our mind, so our ability to learn, think, and grow. And then we have our spiritual self-care, which is the spirit. So that's our ability to connect with essence, purpose, and meaning. And for some, that could be religious self-care as well. So to start us off here, we're going to be talking about self-care for the physical, which is the body. So physical self-care includes ensuring that we all have an overall healthy lifestyle. So that includes stuff like eating healthy, which, is probably something that you hear often, especially from medical providers. But, actually, it is really important to try to nourish ourselves and our body. Also allowing ourselves to have treats, as part of the balance. So understanding that eating healthy is important, but also allowing yourself to enjoy the treats this holiday season too. Drinking lots of water is really important. So you will hear us often say how important it is to let yourselves cry those tears, those grief tears. They are healing tears, but they also dehydrate us. So it's important to also hydrate often. We've also dubbed the term emotional support water bottle. So if you want to get an emotional support water bottle, just like we have here in the grief care team, and stay hydrated that way, that's a good option. Try to get plenty of exercise. So I know it's really hard when the weather starts turning and it gets darker earlier. And then I know with COVID, it was really hard too, to be in enclosed spaces for exercise. But based on your comfort level, try to get some exercise. I know a lot of my clients do mall walking. There's actually a lot of free YouTube exercise videos too. There's walking videos. So definitely check those out. Try to get plenty of exercise. Try to be outside in nature. Another part of physical self-care could be decluttering your home and office. So the Marie Kondo term for decluttering is to get rid of things that don't spark joy anymore. So maybe taking a look around your environment and finding things that don't really spark joy for yourself, and decluttering your home or your office if you work outside of the home. And then try to enjoy moments to rest and replenish. So even though it's important to get physical and to move around, it's also important to take a break from your grief and from being busy during the holiday season. So that can be just sitting on the couch and vegging out and doing what you need to do to take care of yourself, because it's important to replenish. Also included that is sleep. So sleep is usually affected with grief as well. So you'll hear us often say that's important to get sleep and to take care of your body that way. So our next domain we're going to be talking about here for self-care is emotional, which is our hearts. So with emotional self-care, it's really important for us to allow ourselves to feel all of our emotions. You'll often hear us say that too, especially if you come to our support groups. But it is really important for us to feel all of our feels and not push them down and let them come out when they surface, just to get through that moment and then feel better afterwards. Another part of emotional self-care is setting clear boundaries on our time and energy, which is hard to do in grief, but setting clear, concise boundaries is really important. So when we engage in emotional boundaries within our relationships, we can then surround ourselves with positive people and affirmative and inspiring messages from those people. We should address any issues or problems so they don't build up, which is really hard too, because we don't want to feel like a burden sometimes, especially when we're grieving. But honesty, actually, I know it sounds cliche, but honesty is actually the best policy, and it actually helps with the healing journey to talk about what you're feeling with others and realizing that their response and reactions is on them when we know we're actually working towards healing. So also part of emotional self-care is to give and receive love, kindness, and support. You often will hear us too say that we need to start being more gentle and kind to ourselves. So not only being kind and gentle with others, but turning that onto ourselves is actually a really important part of self-care. And it starts to rewire your brain when you start using affirmations like that to project the self-love onto yourself. And then another really important one for emotional self-care is spending time with people you care about and who care about you, which is, again, huge during this holiday season. Whether it's a family gathering or, doing the opposite and taking time to just be with yourself because you care about yourself. Finding the people who care about you and who you care about is really important self-care. The next domain of self-care here is psychological, which is the mind. So I was just talking about our brains are really cool. They have the ability to rewire themselves when we really stick to habits and routines. So a form of self-care for the mind could be activities that include personal and professional development. That could be hobbies, anything that gets your mind going. There's tons of things, like just a Google search for something that might inspire you. Giving attention to things that are in your control. So often with grief, we feel like a lot of things are out of our control. We can't help. So a form of self-care during this time is to just pay attention to the things that are in our control. Taking time for personal reflection. So noticing our inner experiences, thoughts, and feelings. And again, turning that self-kindness to that and not being judgmental when we have thoughts that may not be those positive thoughts. Taking care of our mind in that way. And then cultivating self-awareness through things such as journaling, getting feedback from others, meditation, and coaching and counseling. So if you're not in grief counseling or other forms of therapy, taking that up, and then support groups as well, specifically for grief, can be very helpful for your self-care of your mind during the holiday season. And then our last domain we have here is spiritual self-care. So for some, that might include prayer or meditation. It looks different for everyone. You may want to visualize, practice gratitude, spend time in nature, and be aware of non-material aspects of life. Identify what is meaningful to you in your work and life. And then practicing mindfulness and being present in the moment are all aspects of spiritual self-care. So I will also say about self-care, the really cool thing is that it changes with time. It changes as your grief changes, and each season looks different for self-care. So what might be your self-care right now might not be your self-care in the summertime. So for example, my self-care right now is every Monday night Dancing with the Stars. That's my self-care. That's my time for myself. And that's my self-care right now. But Dancing with the Stars ends in a couple weeks. So my self-care will change as the seasons change, as my grief changes. It will look different, and that's okay, because grief is unique to us and self-care is unique to us as well. So if you've been to our support groups or if you know our grief support team here, we're big on getting our feelings out in any way that's comforting to you. So one of them is journaling. And we've created this self-care journaling exercise that if you want to take the time to write in the next day or so, if you have time to journal and just really reflect on self-care and what self-care means to you, try to consider your own self-care activities in these specific areas of your life. How do you nourish your mind, body, heart, and spirit? How do you actively reduce and manage stress in both your personal and professional life? How do you feel when you're honoring your self-care needs? What does it look like to actually really dig deep and take care of yourself? How do you recognize when you're neglecting your self-care needs? What's calling to you for more attention? What self-care are you feeling most proud of? Again, for me, it's watching Dancing with the Stars. What is one self-care action you would like to commit to doing today, this week, or this month? Thank you guys so much for the opportunity to be able to talk to you about self-care. Again, it's unique to you, and really try to focus on something that you can take care of yourself with that will bring you joy. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Becca, who will be talking about the 12 tips of holiday grief.